Over the past couple of weeks, I've gotten to know the Earhart brothers pretty well. That's Zach and Drew. Now, Drew serves as the hitting coach for the Harbor Hawks, and Zach is an outfielder. I want to go to defeating number 16 Arkansas. It's definitely your most impressive win on your resume so far. We've talked a lot about the confidence of this team, the personality of this team. I'm wondering what that win did for your squad, because sometimes, beating a ranked team for the first time, it can kind of be that moment where you realize, like, wow, we can do this. Like, this is kind of a turning point of confidence. Or the team already has that going in, and it's just proof of what you've been working for. So I'm wondering where your team falls on that spectrum.
Right, it's a great question. So I think, for us,
one of my personal favorite topics is how we grow women's sports. And I think you alluded to part of that is just being united among all fronts, whether it be coaches from other schools or coaches within the same school across different sports. And I've seen on social media that you've shown a lot of support for women's basketball coach Dawn Staley. Obviously, 2 national championships. She's a well-known name. I'm wondering, is there anything that you've personally taken away from her, maybe in conversation or just from watching her in her coaching style?
Well, a lot, right?
At the ABCA convention, we were able to talk to Jay Johnson from LSU on the baseball side, and he was talking a lot about what makes a championship team. Like, what characteristics do those teams all have in common? And with your experience, I want to know the same thing from you.
Yeah, and obviously he's coming off of a national championship.
What's going to be like over the next couple of weeks to get this team ready for SEC play?
Yeah, 7 freshmen on that roster plus 4 transfers, so 11 newcomers all in the mix for Coach Walton, and it was so fun to hear him talk about that, especially the contributions that those freshmen made already in weekend 1. I'm going through all my prep, looking at what to ask him about, and it's like, which freshman do I point out?
Analytics are starting to become even a bigger part of the game. You have such a wide spectrum in college baseball, from the old school approach to everything that Wake Forest is doing with the pitching lab. I'm wondering, where does your staff fall in that spectrum? How much do you weigh in on analytics versus just the traditional eye test?
I think it's a blend. It has to be a blend.
But let's look at Northwestern. The Stars are performing exactly how we expected them to. Izzy Skane with 2 goals, 1 assist. Maddie Taylor has the same stat line. But Erin Kuykendall putting on a masterclass. 4 goals, 3 assists in that first half. She's showing why she was a Tewaaraton finalist last season. But the story of the game so far has been in the draw circle, and it's been a combination of the Smith sisters for Northwestern. Ray Korn just said it had to do with his eyes. He said that Ethan Lanthier was over-rotating, and so he would bring his shoulder across his body, and with his shoulder, his eyes would also follow, and then he wasn't looking at the plate, so he couldn't see where he was throwing. It sounds simple, but it makes a huge difference. I talked to Elijah Hainline yesterday about how this team always seems to come back, and he said there's 27 outs in a baseball game. We're going to utilize all of them. Beginners to baseball might think, okay, high spin rate, that means that the pitch is overall better, but that might not necessarily be true. How are guys with lower spin rates still successful? And we're at Dunkin' Donuts Park, obviously. There's even a Dunkin' inside of the stadium. I got to ask, what's your go-to Dunkin' order?
I'm just like an original glazed kind of guy. Like, that's all I want, so.
No coffee?
No, I don't drink coffee.
Okay, well, it's an 11 a.m. start today. How are you guys keeping the energy up?
Quick turnaround, but.
Ever since you got your first hit against Bourne, you said the next day in the dugout, I'm 1 for 1 since this day. How has that mindset helped you?
Well, it just helped me stay.
Like you said, so many of those key pieces returning, but there were a few that graduated from last year's squad. Haley Radigan, Elle Hansen, Allie Burkery. So there will be some production that will have to be made up. Who from the newcomers has really impressed you?
Well, you talk about the newcomers.
Strikes, move the fastball around, and I did a good job of it, so that's all I could ask for.
You did do a good job of it. You actually threw your fastball 87% of the time. That's not usual for you. Why did you feel so confident in that pitch? You tried to extend your double earlier in the game to a triple, but got thrown out at third. Yeah. How did it feel to finally slide in safely in the 8th?
I was smiling around in second base because I knew I was going to get it.
There was a portion there in the 4th quarter where Syracuse got within 1. What do you think was the difference there, and how has your team's resilience been shown even in game 1?
Yeah, we were tested today. It was a great challenge.